Black Rose, Part 4. Now, before I get into this, I want to explain how Ruby got Crescent Rose in this story, which I forgot to mention. In this one, she actually made it off of, instinct, feeling like it was the perfect weapon for her. So she made Crescent Rose. And now that that's out of the way, let's get on with Part 4. The Grimm wolves that Ruby sent were hunting other Grimm, growing stronger, clearing out Grimm from all over. Some people were thinking it strange why there was less Grimm than usual. But they were glad that the Grimm were gone, or at least for the time being. And during these hunts, the Grimm wolves would be growing stronger. Some would be growing bigger. Some would have unique abilities. Because what we'd call, or I would call, the Grimm's evolutionary state is where a Grimm can evolve to grow stronger. One of them is covered with, armor. White armor, kind of like the Bear Grimm or the Boar Grimm, where they would have armor covering them. One of the wolves evolved into have a state like that. And then we have Ruby's sister and brother, one of them, being the white wolf, the completely white Grimm wolf, and the completely black Grimm wolf. And there will be a few others. Her mother is currently going through the state of the Grimm evolution, which is basically evolving and growing stronger. We go to Ruby, who had just woken up. Okay. As she looks around, notice that quite a few of the Grimm wolves are back. She starts to walk around. It seems y'all are back. As a lot of the Grimm wolves go up to him, as she starts to notice the new appearances of a few Grimm wolves. Ah, so it seems more have joined us. How interesting. As then we just hear a marching sound from outside. What was that? As she goes to the exit with the most of the pack, as her mother had gotten up to go see the commotion, as apparently her brother, the completely black Grimm wolf, had brought quite a few more wolf Grimm with him. Ah, you brought more allies. As she goes up to her brother and starts giving him a pat, as he sits straight down and letting her rub his head. Anyway, we need to get started on the attack on that village nearby. As she points off into the direction, as she gets on her brother's back. Now let's go. As her mother is just going to stay behind during this one, as she is in the process of, technically growing stronger. As she takes several Grimm wolves towards this village. As they get closer, Ruby leans down to her brother's ear. Stay vigilant. There may be unexpected things waiting for us here. As they arrive at the village, as they wait for Ruby to give the signal, and I'm going to say it's daytime. Most of their attacks would be night, but it's daytime. As she grabs a horn and signals with the horn for everyone to attack. As the Grim Wolves start running through the streets, going after people and looking for hunters, as Ruby is on her brother's back, as she sees two hunters, one with a whip type weapon and one with a say machine gun weapon. As Ruby's watching this, get me to an elevated position, brother. Also, comment down below, what should I name the black Grim Wolf and the white Grim Wolf? As he, descends into the shadow, kind of like a semblance, and goes up a wall, following the shadow to where they reach the roof. As he pops out of the shadow, as Ruby was holding on, as she jumps off her brother's back, gets set up into a sniping position. There we go. As she's watching as they're fighting, her wolves. Just stay still. As she's aiming, then the sun suddenly just gets into her line of sight as she fires, hitting the one with the machine gun in the shoulder. I missed. As we see the hunter had stumbled back and noticed the position. As he goes, "We have a sniper." As both him and the huntress with the whip start to run behind cover. As she gets up, they noticed. As she blows the horn she had brought to signal the Grim Wolves to stop them from letting them go to cover. As then a whole bunch of Grim Wolves come out of the forest, coming towards the hunters and all that. There's so many of them. Don't worry, we just have to deal with them. As they prepare their weapons, just to try to mow them down while they run to cover. And while they're focused on, taking down the Grimm, Ruby sets up for another shot. Just stay still this time. As she fires with her gun once again. Her sniper. And this time hitting the whip hunter right through the chest. As she falls to the ground. As the other one used the machine gun to keep firing into the crowd of Grim Wolves. And this is where one Grim Wolf jumps in front of the rest, and it's the armored one, as the bullets simply just fling off. An armored one? As he then changes his weapon to a sword. Ruby then uses her semblance, and she has a black cloak, so I'm going to make it black rose petals as her semblance. Just changing it a little bit. As she would use her semblance and move quickly down and quickly behind the hunter. You sure are slow. Even if you did manage to take out a few more of my pack, you wouldn't have lasted long. As the guy is like, as his head then just goes straight off his shoulders. As she had her scythe laying on the ground. As she takes a look at the hunter, or the huntress that is crawling on the ground. As Ruby approaches. As she's trying to crawl away. As she steps on her back. As she looks upward towards her. Who are you? As she leans down and says this out loud. I am Black Rose. As the Grim Wolves start to come near her. As then Ruby just, decapitates the huntress with her scythe. Now we go to a building where someone heard Ruby as Black Rose. As she didn't give the order to destroy the houses this time. as she signals for all the, well, Grimm wolves to fall back. As several security bots were sent to this area and are now, well, arriving. As they flee back to the forest. Normally I'd say destroy those rust buckets, but for now, I think we took a little bit too many losses. As a few Grimwolves did die by the hunters. As they decided to fall back to the forest. But not before taking the scroll of the hunter or the huntress she just killed. And as well as their weapons. As they go back to the cave where the rest of the Grimm wolves are at. As she gets there, she noticed her mother, who has grown to an exponential height. She is way taller than the tree line, and pretty much taller than the entire entrance of the cave, which was huge. And you all know the Mammoth Grimm, if I remember, that we saw in Season 1. She's about a similar height to them. As she looks up, as her mother can still see very well all the Grimwolves. And Ruby. Ruby approaches her like, and puts a hand on her leg. It seems you've grown stronger, Mother. As she howls, as the rest of the pack starts to howl, as Ruby smiles. Yes, don't worry. We'll find a perfect time to go after Beacon here soon. As she then opens the scroll. The festival by the looks of it? For Beacon. Noted. As she puts the scroll away. Shall we intrude on this festival? As she looks up at her mother, who could still hear Ruby. As she simply nods, as her mother wants to tear Beacon apart. As let's wait a few days until this. As she yawns. Until they get this festival underway. After all, I think all of us, as she looks back at the Grimwolves, some are tired, some are wounded, need a bit of a rest. As her mother just simply nods before laying on the ground. As Ruby smiles. It's good to know you understand. Now, I really hope no one else interferes with our plans. And this is where we go to, well, Ozpin pretty much, who's in his office. Alright. As a report came in from another village that was attacked, but an interview pops up. An interview? This is new. As he decides to play it, as it was a civilian who was hiding in the house. There were Grimwolves everywhere. They came out of nowhere and started attacking. Yes, the same report. There was also someone with them. As this piques Ozpin's interest. Someone with them. Can you, say for certain of who it was? No, I couldn't make out the person. But, it seemed like, they were going by Black Rose. Black Rose. Interesting. I may have to do some research and more digging into this, but right now, I need to make sure the Fall Maiden is taken care of. And this is where he's choosing a candidate for the Fall Maiden. It's gonna be the same candidate as Canon, but he's preparing everything for the festival and all that at the same time, keeping Beacon running. Well, at least I now have some more information on this little thing we're going to take care of after the festival. As we go back to Ruby, who is asleep with the rest of her pack, as she gets a vision of Salem. As she keeps getting a few visions about Salem for some reason. And of other Grimm tearing each other apart. As she shakes her head and wakes up in a cold sweat. Who was that? What? I don't know how to describe it. Visions, maybe? As she gets up and goes to get some water. She knows that a few Grimm are awake and around her. Of her wolf Grimm. What is it? As they are worried about Ruby, as she's been getting less and less sleep lately. I'm going to be fine. Just a nightmare, she claims. As then we see a unique Grimm wolf approach. This is where half of its, fur is white and the other half black. As it stands in front of Ruby. What is it? As it puts one of its claws on Ruby's head. As it makes Ruby goes to sleep. It then, one of the other Grimm wolves catched her head with their body, sliding under the way she was falling to where her head hit their fur. As she's out cold. As this is where her brother and sister came in and looked at the Grimm that put her to sleep. But the Grimm then silently walks away. Then they go to lay next to their sister. We go to Salem, who had saw someone slaughtering hunters through her eyes. Why am I seeing? Is there another humanoid Grimm? No. I must be imagining things. It must have been one of the Grimm just attacking another village. She thinks. But there's been lately a lot of powerful Grimm popping up, which is good for me. Now I don't have to worry, as surely Beacon shall fall. As she smiles, as she remembers sending Cinder, if I remember, to go make sure Beacon was destroyed. And that is the end of part 4. Hopefully you all enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe for more.